Today we are back with my 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor, and we are testing out a set of brand new 34-inch Yokohama GEOLANDAR G003 mud terrain tires. These have replaced the MT2s, the Firestone Destination MT2s that I had on here, which were 315/70 R17s. These are a skinny and tall setup, 285/75 R17s, so skinny 34s. As you can see, they clear the crash bar beautifully with my 1-inch front lift on stock wheels. And same with the rear crash bar, no clearance issues whatsoever. Here's a look at the tread, one of the most aggressive tread designs I've seen on any mud terrain tire. We've got just absolute sex for sidewalls here, tons of big tread blocks to grab onto mud, rocks, dirt. Off-road, these things are a force to be reckoned with. We've actually driven on these tires before, but on side-by-sides, and I think that tells you just about everything you need to know about the GEOLANDAR G003. All right, let's take this out. We'll give you guys some initial driving impressions here. It's wet out. I wanted to test these in the rain and give you guys kind of the most challenging street driving scenario that you would see in these, and then we're gonna hit some dirt roads. You guys can see the truck's already dirty. I've already filmed a bit of this video ahead of this intro. I'll tell you right now, these tires aren't all show and no-go. They really perform amazingly well off-road, and they're actually a very livable street tire for such an aggressive-looking mud terrain. Let's hop in, and we'll give you guys some initial driving impressions here. I think these 34s are kind of the perfect size for the Ranger Raptor. They don't have too much rolling resistance through obstacles, through deep mud and terrain. I've always kind of been in the camp of skinny and tall for an off-road tire. When you air down, you still get that traction and flotation, but you don't have all of that rolling resistance that you do with a wider tire. You can hear here, just getting up to 60 miles an hour, not a ton of road noise with these G003s. Let's do a braking test. Pretty decent traction on the wet. We've got traction off. Let's turn it on and do a 0 to 60. A little bit of wheel spinning first, but it hooks up, grips, and rips. I'll tell you right now, give you a bit of a teaser for the rest of the video. It actually has better grip on dirt than it does on pavement, which I guess isn't a huge surprise. We have really nice water evacuation here, a little bit of siping, but the big news here, at least for street driving on these G003s, is that there is some really smart tread sequencing here that allows for a little bit less noise than we've seen from the Firestone Destination MT2, for example, especially at lower speeds. You get into some speeds around town, 20, 30 miles an hour, this tire is almost silent. Take it slow for the semi-truck here. Breakaway is super linear, super progressive. It's a squishy tire, so you're not going to get a ton of road feel, not a ton of steering feedback. It's not going to be the most dynamically athletic tire in the dry. It feels a little bit squishy, especially when temperatures climb. But it's so comfortable. It filters out bumps and rough pavement beautifully. We're running this at Placard. Right now we're at about 41 PSI in the front, 39 in the back. Tire temps are about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And right now about 70 miles an hour, you can hear there's just a little bit of tread noise on the highway. It's almost matched by the exhaust note in the Ranger Raptor. Put on a little bit of music and you've got a very livable mud terrain tire. I haven't really noticed too much of a fuel economy dip. I did some highway driving in this earlier this week and averaged about 18-19 miles to the gallon at about 70 miles an hour over 30, 40 miles. The rest of the time, though, I average about 13, 12 because, well, I'm just idling in the school pickup and drop-off line. Driving 3 miles to school, and that's it. That's all I mostly do with this Ranger Raptor. Occasionally I'll take it on some epic adventures, but most of the time it's just taking the kids to school, and you can see that in the back. Super stable tire at speed, even though it is a little bit squishier and a little bit more comfort-oriented on the road. It still has very good high-speed stability. In the rain, very little, if any, hydroplaning. I have to hit some really, really deep puddles to kind of feel any sort of effect on the tire from the outside road conditions. Pretty confidence-inspiring tire in the rain. And this is a skinnier setup, and with those big, massive, wide tread blocks with lots of space between them, there's probably a lot less rubber contacting the road here than you would get with a traditional all-terrain tire. Remember, when I first got into the G003s, before they were broken in, it was sketchy just driving on the highway in too high. These mud terrains, under full throttle, 70, 80 miles an hour, no problems. Let's do a little pull here in sport mode from 55. Granted, we are back on the stock tune, so note that we do not have 450 horsepower, we have 405 horsepower. I think I've kind of settled on preferring the drivability, at least around town, with the stock tune on the Ranger Raptor. Also, I'm running this on 89 octane these days. All right, let's make a few changes. Let's put our exhaust into sport, dampers into sport. We'll leave steering in comfort, and let's turn some things off. See if we can have a little bit of fun in the wet on these Yokohama GEOLANDAR G003s. Braking performance feels good. Really progressive, easy to modulate. Oh boy. Breakaway is super progressive. It's a really comfortable tire to drive on. And I think it feels just fine in the wet. This is very acceptable performance here for a mud terrain. Let's take this on some dirt roads. Oh man, this is going to be impressive. All right, already pretty darn good traction here on this wet dirt, wet gravel. That's awesome. Wow. Ride is also really, really nice. These absorb bumps and impacts very, very well. These actually have better traction on the dirt than they do on the pavement, which is, I guess, how it kind of should be. Again, two-wheel drive high, really testing the limits of this. We wouldn't have any issues on this tire in 4 auto. At lower speeds, these are a lot quieter too. We've got much better road manners around town. Overall, I'm actually pretty impressed with the lower noise levels of these Yokohamas. Alright, a lot of wetness, a lot of water here, a lot of rain. And we're pretty much shrugging everything off. Got some standing puddles on the side of the road. No issues there. Really good deep water evacuation with these G003s. I'm impressed. Alright, we got some real mud here. Got some limited visibility, so we're going to keep our speeds down a little bit. I just have so much confidence in this tire in too high, which says everything about it. Could be the design, could be the narrowness here, but it feels like it just gets through water so cleanly and so efficiently. Big puddle, not even phased. That's really impressive traction. Yeah, the noise from these tires is never overwhelming. There's not that really low kind of drone point to them that you associate with a lot of mud terrain tires. They're definitely louder than all terrains, but they're about as livable as it gets, I think, for a max traction mud terrain tire. There's definitely more traction in the dirt than there is in the dry. Just watch this braking. That is incredible. All right, off we go. That's awesome. What about lateral grip? That's pretty good. Nice. Really nice. We were in sport suspension mode that whole time too, which is sometimes pretty stiff. Alright guys, those are some first driving impressions in the Ranger Raptor on the new Yokohama G003 mud terrain tires. Pretty awesome tire on first impressions. I love the way they look. I love the way they perform. We'll see how they do off-road here soon. On-road, they've been a perfectly livable tire. Supposedly, they even have pretty decent snow performance, though I will probably go back to an all-terrain tire for winter driving just because ice, light snow traction on these mud terrains, they just don't quite have the siping needed for winter driving. But for the rest of the year, they are a fantastic maximum off-road traction tire.